This whole Senate Intelligence Committee torture report is confusing, to say the least, right? I mean, all right, here's what we know so far. Republicans don't believe it. Democrats think it's worse than reported. Some people say it should have never been released because it will just embolden our enemy. Others say we had to release it to show the transparency in America and that we're on the right track to doing the right thing. Some people don't believe that waterboarding and that some of the other more grossly described techniques are even torture. What does it all mean? And then finally we hear some people should be prosecuted, maybe even George W. Bush, White House officials, CIA operatives. What does this all really mean? Well, let's find out now. Brian Bouffard joins us. He is a criminal defense attorney and a former U.S. Navy JAG lieutenant commander, and he's on the line with Mark and Dave this afternoon. And Brian, we want to say welcome to the Mark and Dave Show.
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for having me.
It's a real pleasure, and I know that everyone's been trying to get your ear today, but let's just first ask you, as a lawyer, is there a chance that any high-ranking U.S. official or CIA operative could be prosecuted because of what some are calling torture?
Could they legally be prosecuted? I think maybe so. Is there a realistic chance that anyone is going to be prosecuted? I would think no. I don't see that happening. Why
do you think that wouldn't happen?
Well, because I think it would take the kind of political will to do that I just don't think exists right now. I think a lot of folks in senior levels of the government kind of just want this issue to go away, and I don't see any prosecutions actually happening out of this. Although there are certainly some ugly allegations in this report.
Yeah, they are ugly, and I, in my mind, as I read them, and what little I understand about these kind of complex issues, this seems like torture to me. And my litmus test is, how many volunteers can we get right now listening who will line up to waterboard or use anal rehydration techniques to get information out of suspected terrorists? And this is a job for a certain type of person. So I mean, it's clearly torture in my mind. But I would think if we tried to prosecute any high-ranking U.S. official, it would make us look like a banana republic.
Well, it would, but frankly, let me step back from that. I think that their actions make us look like a banana republic. I actually think that prosecuting somebody for committing war crimes would actually do more to legitimize us and hopefully put us back, on the road to at least being the kind of country that I grew up in and thought, naively, I guess, that would never engage in torture. And now we're finding out, that we have done that, and it's deeply unsettling. We should be better than that. We should be better than our enemies. And previous administrations and even the current administration have taken the tack that, no, we can be just as brutal as they are.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front, and you make a very, very good point. Then there becomes the question of, well, if it's a CIA operative or a contractor or whomever it might be carrying out this enhanced interrogation techniques, torture, that if they were ordered to do so, they would be immune from prosecution. Is that true?
That's not true, and that's an argument that was defeated in Nuremberg when we tried the Nazis, and they tried to say, well, everything I did was okay because I was just following the orders of the concentration camp commandant or whoever else. That does not absolve a person of moral responsibility, and I think innately, people like you and I and regular citizens on the street, I think we mostly know that. But power does corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolute. And we have regrettably, very regrettably, taken this position that, no matter, we don't even have to know that they did it. There were 26 people there at least who they're now admitting they didn't have any information on. I'm assuming these are just goat herders who didn't do anything wrong, or at least that we can't prove that they did. And that turns everything that we're about on its head.
Yeah, Brian Bouffard is with us. He is a defense attorney, former U.S. Navy JAG commander, and find out more at jagdefender.com. Is it possible in a situation like this where the Bush administration, according to this, maybe was misled by the CIA, that would give high-ranking officials some immunity?
Maybe, but the way I look at it, and I think the only way that it makes real sense to look at it is the government is the government is the government. If the CIA is doing something, that is government action. And at the end of the day, I've tried to live, my life this way, and certainly most military officers I know, men and women of integrity, live their lives this way, and that is, if it happens on my watch, I'm responsible for it.
Yeah.
And we don't see that ethic at our highest levels of government.
We don't seem to anymore, anyway. Dick Cheney is on record saying that I believe he said that the report's full of crap. I think that's the quote. And what he said was that they did know what was going on, at least in his office. As a lawyer, would you tell him to just be quiet now? Because if in fact charges were to be leveled against him, he wouldn't want to say that he did know what was going on, would he?
Oh, if I were Dick Cheney's lawyer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would advise him to shut his mouth. And in fact, I'd advise him to do that even though I'm not his lawyer.
It seems like if these guys hush up, would that be a clue that maybe they're coming under pressure?
Could be. I mean, again, we're talking about a kind of a fox in the henhouse sort of situation, trying to defend parts of the government from other parts of the government, and somehow accepting that it's okay on some level that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And, again, that's just a concept that I absolutely reject. I think that what makes us Americans, or what ought to make us Americans, is that we don't do certain things, even though it would be expedient for us to do them. I mean, it's, you can certainly torture someone who's helpless and at your command, but why are you doing it, and what is your end goal? And I think that's another important aspect of the report, is it confirms what we've known for years, and that is torture doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to. At least this report points to that. Hey, finally, very quickly, as we run out of time, ACLU is calling on the president to pardon George Bush and Dick Cheney and other officials, and they say that's the only way to prevent any kind of torture from ever happening again. What do you make of that move and that statement?
This is the first I've heard of that, and I'd have to sit down and really think it through. I'm not sure that I understand the ACLU's logic there.
Well, what I think they're doing is actually they would like to see the president pardon Bush and Cheney just to imply that they were guilty of something, because they've not been proven guilty of anything.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, traditionally a pardon occurs after a conviction has occurred, so that's putting the cart way before the horse. But,
yeah.
I just, again, I know we're out of time, but the bottom line is we should be better than this, and it pains me that we haven't been.
Well, I agree with you on that. Hey, thanks for taking time this afternoon. Again, it's jagdefender.com. Brian Bouffard, thanks for being on with Mark and Dave.
Anytime, gents. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Brian Bouffard and jagdefender.com. That is the web address. You find out more information about Brian and the work that he does.